We will hear from Josh on the quarterback situation at the Combine in a minute, but let us start with what might be turning into the biggest disappointment in sports, the Lakers and the Grizzlies in Memphis. Another game against another team that is looking to tank, you guys. And look at the defensive effort or lack thereof from the Lakers on an early first quarter possession.
Greeny, they're being out-hustled by a team that wants to be in the lottery for obvious reasons. Mike Conley did a terrific job scoring 30, however, against that backcourt.
And that's 20 seconds of action right there in which it did not appear anyone on the Laker defensive side was moving. And then you got a nice little move here from Avery Bradley crossing up Brandon Ingram. And the Grizzlies have themselves a 5-point lead. And again, Jalen, you make the point, this is a team that's tanking, but look how fired up they are.
Joakim Noah was not in the NBA to start this season.
He had a rebirth last night.
Exactly. Lakers down 5 in the fourth. LeBron to the basket. Joakim Noah swats it away. How in the world is this not called goaltending? I can't believe it, and neither could LeBron when it was done.
Now, I won't even tell you what the explanation was, but what he told me was the ball went off the backboard, and when the ball hit the rim, he was allowed to touch the ball. That doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense. It's a bad call. Now, 1 minute to go. Lakers are down 4. Here we go. LeBron in transition. Watch him go strong to the hole, Jalen. He gets it up and good. Goes to the foul line, and obviously the late game free throws not his forte.
They have not been, Greeny, and at this point of the game, you need your best player to go up there and make his free throws. He does not do so. Memphis gathers the rebound, but there are clock issues.
Correct. Now, just keep a close eye on the shot clock here. It's at 17. It's at 16. It's clearly at 15, and they don't have the ball over. Should have been an 8-second violation on Memphis. They don't call it. Lakers are forced to foul, and so that's where we wind up. Lakers now 30 seconds to go. Last chance. You tell me, is this a good call here? They're going to call LeBron on the charge.
That's a terrible call. I don't think the defender was set. Joakim Noah, not in the legal guarding position. He fell like a folding chair. That should have been a basket and a foul.
LeBron triple-double, but they lose again.
Playoff push and the fact that that's all anybody's talking about with 25 games to go, basically. Has that become a distraction at all? And does it affect the way, have you felt like it has affected the way your team plays in close situations?
At this point, if you are still allowing distractions to affect you, the way you play, then this is the wrong franchise to be a part of, and you should just come and be like, listen, I can't do this. Like, seriously, if you're distracted by playoff pushes and then all the stuff that's been talked about this year, just come and do your job. We do our job at a high level, and that's not a distraction. That's what you want. That's what you want. Every game, you want to feel like you're fighting for something.
Wow. LeBron with strong words after a bad loss, and his team just can't guard anybody. They've allowed at least 100 points in 19 straight games. Going back to January 9th, they're 7-12 in that span. It's the Lakers' longest streak of that kind in the last 35 years. So let's take this to the table. And, Sean, I want to start with you. You make your home in L.A. You're there. You're sort of living in this every single day. What words would you use to describe the Lakers season right now?
A massive disappointment. There's no other way to look at it, because you were sold a bill of goods that when LeBron James was going to come, first of all, that there was going to be somebody else that came with him. Well, that never happened. Then you were sold that, okay, well, we signed all these guys because we're going to be really good at the defensive end of the floor. They're worse this year at the defensive end than they were a season ago. They're only 3 games better than where they were last year. And I thought this from the get-go. Look, I understand when the best player in the NBA wants to sign with your organization, you're going to take them. And for the Lakers, it was mandatory. But look at the upcoming schedule. We talked about this last week with David West. He said they got to win 10 out of 12, 8 out of 10. Well, they're not off to a good start, and when you look at this upcoming schedule, it's hard to see this team making any sort of run that's going to be able to sustain and put them in the Western Conference discussion.
I hear everything you're saying, but I go back to Miami when LeBron showed up there and there was the big three. You had Chris Bosh and Dwayne Wade. And just because you have 3 great players doesn't mean all of a sudden that begets you a team that's going to win the world championship. And so my question is, whether or not you had LeBron, or say you get one more great player, we don't necessarily mean, or it doesn't mean that we're going to be having a discussion that they're one of the best players in the West, or best teams in the West.
Well, coming into this season, I felt like success for the Lakers would be 7th or 8th seed, possibly advance past the first round. Those goals are actually still there. But what happens is when you have LeBron James, people feel like that's going to give you a rite of passage for success. And in the Western Conference, that's just not going to happen, and it hasn't taken place.
Jalen, let's talk specifically about what we heard LeBron saying in there. If you're distracted by the playoff push, and we know what he was really talking about, which was the Anthony Davis trade rumors and the way that seems to have torn apart this young team. He just said, if you're distracted by that stuff, then you're in the wrong franchise. What'd you make of that?
All of the best teams, all of the best relationships have one thing in common: trust. And when you find out that they're trying to trade 5 of us for 1 of them, and it does not happen, there's going to be a fracture. That's why, trust me, as somebody that's been traded a couple of times, the goal for the team is to suppress as long as they can that they're going to move you. But just because as an employee, you're not going to give your all. That's just how it works.
Are those guys fractured from the Lakers, from ownership, from management, or are they fractured from LeBron because they perceive that he's the guy really making the moves?
Well, the latter, number one. But number two, the Lakers aren't one of the best teams in the West.
Right.
Period.
But they're better than this.
No.
They should beat Memphis, Atlanta, and New Orleans without Anthony Davis, Jalen.
Greeny, when you don't play defense and you can't contest at the hoop and you can't stop teams from scoring in the paint, they're going to be in the game versus your team.
But that's what Magic and Rob sold everybody on, is that this was going to be a defensive, physical team. They said that they weren't going to be able to shoot the ball. Everybody knew they weren't going to be shooters, but they said, hey, with the guys that we signed, the older players that we're bringing in, these guys are going to bring a defensive mentality to the court, and it's not even close.
You are your skill set. Their best players are LeBron James, Kuzma, and Ingram. When those 3 guys are in the game, they're not going to be able to physically oppose the other team's big men. They're not going to be able to stop people from driving consistently. Teams are going to be able to score against them. You are your skill set. I don't care what they say. That's just what this team is going to be. They got to outscore people, so to speak.
One team they did actually outscore was the Rockets, but a team they lost to was the Hawks. The good news is both of these teams played each other last night, so we got to take a look at James Harden again. Remember, he was out Saturday against the Warriors because of a neck injury, so there might be a couple bricks you're going to see here in this game. That's the first one. The step back is no good, and again, pulling up and missing another 3. So Harden struggling early in this game.
And we've seen this over the course. But here's the good thing. The Rockets aren't struggling.
True.
So while we continue to focus on James Harden, the team is actually improving.
All right, well, you see there, 4 Hawks members converge to get the ball out. Austin Rivers knocks down the 3s. Harden had 17 points through 3 quarters, which is the fewest since December. Remember, he's looking to continue his 30-point performances. He's got 32 straight games with that, and that lay-in is good, taking on probably 3 different players. He's got 19 now. Here comes the double team. No chance, Jalen.
And it wasn't for a lack of trying that he didn't get 30. He was 0 for 10 from 3.
You're right. Okay, he's going to jack up another 3. You're right. 0 for 10 from 3. That's his 4th career game going 0 for 10 or worse from 3. That's twice as many as any other player under 30 seconds to go. Again, driving past the double team. Gets that to go. 26 points.
Greeny, remember the game I told you he had 4 offensive fouls?
Right.
He got to start shooting his runner and floater and play mid-range. That's what he's doing right now.
Okay, we've got 30 seconds to play. 2 points shy of 30, but look at Harden. First of all 4 or 5 Hawks defenders trying to stop him, but he decides that he's not going to go up and try to get 30. So the streak ends at 32 games. Let's hear from Harden after the game.
It was great, but I was just doing it because that's what he had to do in order to keep our heads above water. Now we get our full roster back. You look at the roster, the stat line, we had multiple guys in double figures, which is great to see. So hopefully we can keep that up. And we got 22 more games left to kind of catch rhythm and find a rhythm for where we're trying to go.
The streak had kind of taken a life of its own. Are you almost happy a little bit that it's over?
Yeah. It was cool. I know I wasn't going to get to number 1, so.
Oh, it was more than cool, James Harden. As a general rule, though, if you're sandwiched between Wilt Chamberlain on a graphic, you've probably done something right, and James Harden's 30-point streak ended at 32 games, less than half of the way to Wilt's all-time record. He said he knew he wasn't going to get to number 1. But, Jalen, do you think that the streak ending is a good thing for James Harden at this point?
I don't think it's a good thing. I think it's a great thing. I think it's fantastic. I think it's wonderful because the thing that can't get lost in the streak is Chris Paul has now found his game. And so as a primary playmaker that's going to make people around him better, Chris Paul is now able to orchestrate and get Capella shots, get P.J. Tucker shots. Eric Gordon feels more comfortable. So James could just be that prolific scorer and get buckets, But at the same time, Chris is going to make sure everybody else eats. And so for James Harden, as Sean mentioned, even though we're going to focus on the streak, the Rockets team has now improved.
Yeah, go back to the last 2 games. What you've seen is balance. And Clint Capella coming back obviously impacts them at the defensive end of the floor, helps guys like P.J. Tucker be able to pressure out even more. But when you have 5 guys getting double figures against the Warriors without James Harden and you're able to win, and then you have 6 last night, I go back to what Kobe said a couple weeks ago when you and I were talking on this show, is you can't win with this style. Well, guess what? What I've seen out of the last 2 games, it's not that style anymore. Now this is looking like a team that could be able to give the best threat or the biggest threat to the Warriors in the postseason.
Do you know who knows they can't win that way? Is James Harden. And that's why I don't think he has I tell you what, James Harden, in my opinion, you can make an argument, has been better this year than he was last year when he won the MVP. He single-handedly kept them in this. And now, again, you just made the point. We weren't here Sunday morning to talk about it.
Right.
But they beat Golden State Saturday night and looked phenomenal without James Harden on the floor at all. So if they now can find a dynamic like that, I agree. I think they become the single biggest threat to Golden State in the West.
This is what I love about sports. Like, the star, and rightfully so, is going to get all of the credit and all of the acclaim when things go well. And not necessarily always get the blame unless it's LeBron James. So when he doesn't play, Chris Paul now can say, watch this, everybody, and have 17 assists at Golden State.
Yep.
So now when James comes back into the locker room, you can't jack up 35 shots because people are going to be looking at you like you're crazy. And so now when he comes back, he shot 21 times. Sure. He was normally shooting 30-plus times.
Right.
And we still give you a chance to get your 30, except you were 0 for 10 from 3.
He was doing it because he had to.
Correct.
Now he doesn't have to.
Correct.
And they become better. We have